guys? It's Knockout21. How are y'all doing today? Sorry for the lack of content on my channel recently. I'm basically living in between two places right now, so yeah, I don't have a lot of time to make stuff as I usually do. But yeah, I am in the middle of working on a new video, just to let you know. But before that, I thought I'll give you a quick overview of something that really caught my eye last year, and it's this thing right here, the GGHD mod kit for the Sega Game Gear. Basically what this thing does is it allows you to connect your Game Gear to a modern television set with the use of HDMI. As you all know, the way I used to do things was using a McWill modded Game Gear via VGA, and well, it wasn't the prettiest nor the easiest thing to get going. There's a lot of cables involved, a power cable, an audio cable, controller port, and a VGA, and this thing looked like a Medusa was on the ground. There was no easy way of me putting it anywhere safe, like on my desk, and getting it working just right. So I was kind of hoping for another solution. That's why Gamebox Systems, when Gamebox Systems announced that they were working on a HDMI board for the Game Gear, I just jumped at the chance of getting one, and that's what I did. And let's go ahead and show you some of the footage that I recorded with this thing. Now this is Psychic World on the Game Gear, although it should be obvious at this point. And when you first turn on the Game Gear with this board installed, the image is going to be at 720p. In order to bring up the menu though, to change your resolution and in settings, you'll have to hold C and start at the same time for about 5 seconds. Although be wary, because if you're playing on the 8-bit do, you might accidentally turn off your controller. So just be aware that if you hold on to the start button for too long, that's what can happen. But as you can see here, I'm messing around with the settings. There's various aspect ratios, various scaling options, an overscan feature, just to basically fill out the screen any way you want. You also have your options of various resolutions from 480p, of course the 720p that's active right now, and 1080i. However, I do have to point out something. Now, I'm not sure if it has to do with my board or what the monitor I'm using, although I have to say it's probably the capture equipment now that I think about it. But for some reason, whenever I play in either 480p or 1080i, the sound sounds really garbled, and sometimes the image doesn't even show on the 1080i. So just be wary of that you might have issues depending on your capture equipment. But for the most part, it's pretty it works pretty well. So soldering this thing onto your Game Gear board isn't too difficult. It's on par to like the McWill mod or the clean screen board. It does require some skill, I'm not gonna lie. I would rate this somewhere between intermediate to advanced soldering levels, for lack of a better term. But yeah, it's not overly difficult. The only hard part is what you're looking at here. Soldering the castellated edges to the screen pins is kind of difficult, but with a fine tip and some no clean flux, you're pretty much good to go. And once everything's soldered in place and you put the control board on, attach it with the ribbon and all that, screw everything together, put the clamshell in, and well, you end up with what you're looking at right now. This beautiful, consoleized Game Gear with the Sega Genesis port, HDMI connection, USB-C power supply. I gotta say, this thing looks gorgeous. Well done. I really gotta say, it's well done. The only issue I have though is how the whole thing looks when you try to attach a Master Gear converter to this thing. Yeah, it doesn't look pretty, but that's not really the fault of Gamebox. It's just how it goes, And before I move on to anything else, as you guys can see, even based on the last picture, this thing also plays Master System games, either through your EverDrive on a Game Gear, or like you've seen in the picture, you can actually connect one of the many, Master System to Game Gear carts and play Master System games that way. And I gotta say, it looks pretty clean. A nice alternative way of playing your Master System games. Gives you the same resolution options, same filters, scan lines, what have you. Same thing on a Master System. And I dare to say it looks a little bit better than what would have been done through the Genesis via the power base converter. But yeah, I gotta say I'm pleased about this. And there you have it, guys, the GGHD board for the Sega Game Gear. Do I recommend this mod? It's tough. It's tough because it's everything I ever wanted in a Game Gear consoleizer. HDMI, Genesis control support, easy to find power supply. But it has two problems. One major, one minor. Let me talk about the minor one first. As already stated, this uses the Genesis control, right? You expect button 1 and 2 to be mapped to button A and B respectively. But that's not the case. They're in reverse. Button A is mapped to 2 and button B is mapped to 1. So yeah, when I was playing Black Belt or Fatal Fury, I was having a tough time getting used to the new layout of these games, and it wasn't fun at first. It took a little time to get used to, but eventually I got used to it and I started to have fun again. Whew. But the biggest major issue would be what you're looking at right now. You see, right now this thing is at 480p. It looks pretty good, but when I switch over to 720p, it's a bit of a mess. Let's switch over to 1080i. Screen is still a mess. Let's switch back over to 480p. And the screen comes back, but there is no sound. So yeah, there's no sound in this thing. it's hard for me to recommend this mod because of issues like this. I read at the Gamebox website that because the signals are coming directly from FPGA instead of a HDMI transceiver, that this thing's not going to be compatible with every television and monitor out there. I was lucky. I had a monitor right here that works perfectly with this thing. The Elgato works perfectly with this thing. That's how I was able to capture footage. But if you pay the $169, install this thing, and have it not work, that's a risk that I'm not willing to tell people to take. It's a lot of money, and it does require some soldering skill too. So yeah, it's hard for me to recommend buying this thing as is. However, if you do want to take the risk and dive headfirst into this mod, I'm just gonna tell you that this is probably the best picture I've seen come out of the Game Gear, like on a TV screen. But with that said, thank you for watching my video. Please comment, rate, and subscribe, and like always, have a good one. Take care, you guys.